Right, hello everybody. So let's get this party started. So excited to be able to have the opportunity to chat with these young ladies. Um, for people that don't know, I'm Natasha Watley and two-time Olympian, and I started the Natasha Watley Foundation 15 years ago, and with the attempt to empowering young girls through underserved communities, trying to serve girls that come from communities of color. Today, we'll be highlighting girls who are coming from the LGBTQ community, and we'll be talking to some softball greats that are some of my buds, people I admire in the softball community as well. And as we all can talk about, which I'm sure we'll get there, but just sports in general, softball specifically, just brings us together. And I feel like it breaks down barriers. It fosters a sense of belonging. Never in a million years of playing softball did I ever feel like I didn't belong. It always gave me a sense of a place where I could contribute because of what I brought to the table. And I think that we are trying to get to a place where we are trying to foster more inclusivity and diversity through our game. And so excited to highlight these women as well and their stories. So I will introduce each of our panelists today, and then we'll get into questions. And what we'll do at the end is anybody who's in the room, I would love for you to ask questions. You can go ahead. I think that there is an actual questions thing at the bottom. And so you can go ahead and ask those, and we'll reserve some time at the end for that. So first up, we have Lauren Lappin. She is currently serves as an assistant coach at University of Arizona. She's played collegiately at Stanford from 2003 to 2006. The silver medalist in 2008. I have had the opportunity to be teammates with Lappin, one of my buds. Played from Team USA from 2004 to 2012, three-time world champion, World Cup champion, Pan American gold medalist, and also played in NPF. She's played for the Nwf Pride, Pennsylvania Rebellion, and just has always been a huge advocate for LGBTQ rights, inclusivity in sports, has been an open gay athlete from as far as I could remember. So excited to hear some words from her. We have Alicia Ocasio, who is currently at Athletes Unlimited Pro, and myself, her, and Wiggins are here in Wichita, Kansas. I got the opportunity to cover their games last night. Still confirmed she is still a stud, as well as Wiggins too. Played at the University of Florida, where she led the Gators to a 2015 NCAA title, national championship. Has competed for the Puerto Rican national team and won the Champions Cup for AU in 2021, and is still doing some big things in the sport, be a huge advocate as well for the LGBTQ community. Also, Jazz Jackson, who we have on the call, the owner of Impact Gold, competed at LSU, which we just confirmed 2006 to 2010. And amazing, doing some amazing things for anybody who is in the travel ball world. You have come across Impact Gold at some point, and I'm sure my bud Lappin can say, hey, we've been recruiting some athletes from Jazz's organization, which has been putting together some amazing talent that we are seeing sprinkled across the collegiate world now. We have, last but not least, Megan Wiggins, who is also a current Athletes Unlimited Pro. This is year 14 as a pro athlete. Woo! Like, she's out there in her crutches, her wheelchair, still hitting home runs, like just like getting it done. So yesterday she had a 2-run bomb, 3-1, 2-run bomb, hit a home run. So she's still killing it. 13-year pro, played in the NPF, was the 2013 Player of the Year, played in Japan, had the opportunity to play against her there, and is now the owner of the Peaches Summer Collegiate Team and founder of the Peaches Foundation, which you just launched. Well, did you just launch it this year? We could get into that, but we'll get into that. Well, she just launched the Peaches Foundation, and also an owner of Antique Business, which is freaking amazing. Love when she posts any of her content about her antiquing, and excited to get into this conversation. So tonight's going to be a lot of fun. I want this to be super casual. I'm going to obviously direct some questions to specific panelists, but for the most part, I would just love to open up, and I would love for each of you just to share your coming out story, how it intersected with your journey as an athlete, how that intersected with just life in general. And I will start off with Lappin, since I'll go in the order that I introduced you guys in.
All right, you might have to give me the hook, Tosh, because I can get long-winded with this one. But like my public coming out story, Tasha actually was there for it, and I'll get to that. But I started realizing, I guess, that I was interested in women over men in college. Back in the day, I think, Tosh, throughout the years I played in college, so it's been a long, long time, and things have changed drastically. But that's kind of when I started to realize that I might be gay, and started dating women secretly, I might add. So my first coming out was to some teammates at Stanford. And I'm really lucky to be able to say that they embraced me. We'll get into kind of the dialogue around how we recruited and stuff, and some things that maybe like I think of now as being issues. But my teammates who I was close to, that I came out to, embraced it. And I was, emotional when I told them, and they grabbed me and hugged me and loved me through it, and supported me just like they would any other teammate. So feel really, really fortunate that that was my experience coming out to my first teammates. And then a fun little story about like coming out to my family is not sure why I chose this moment. I was in a serious relationship with a woman in college, towards the end of college. And it was my mom and my sister and I in the car driving from, I think, Southern California to Fresno, or it was Northern California to Fresno. That's neither here nor there, though, because we were going to my cousin's graduation party, and my mom was driving. It's just totally unsafe way to come out to your mother. But my sister was in the passenger seat and I was in the back seat, and it was quiet for a bit. We were listening to music, and I just got overwhelmed with like emotions on hiding a big part of my life from two really important people to me. And so I started sobbing, like just randomly sobbing. And my sister turned to tell me something and noticed that I was crying. And she's like, what's happening? What's wrong? Oh my gosh. Like turned around out of her seatbelt to look at me in the eye. And I just broke down, and I told them that I was dating a woman, and I think that I'm gay. And my mom, God bless her, she kept her hands on the wheel miraculously. She was just like, okay. And my sister's like, okay, so that's it? Great. Are you happy? And that was the first question she asked me is, are you happy? And I was like, yeah, I am, even though I'm bawling. And she's like, then that's all that matters to me. That's all that matters to us. And my mom kind of followed her lead. And we've talked a lot about it. This is years ago now, but we've talked a lot about it since then. But in that moment, my mom wasn't necessarily comfortable with it. And she was maybe not shocked, but uncomfortable talking about it and acknowledging it. And so thank goodness my sister was there to kind of show her the way and get us through that initial moment. So that's how I came out to my family at first. There was a lot of touch points from there, telling my dad and stuff. But when we were at the 2008 Olympics, Tosh was there too. And actually she like kind of played a role in this story, but we were at our presser, like pre-Olympic press conference, right? And so we're all, the whole team and coaching staff are up on the stage in our chairs. It's like a 30, 45-minute press conference, whatever. I am a role player on this team, so not expecting any questions to come my way. And they say, okay, we're going to now have the athletes spread out around the room and field questions if you want to talk to them, chat, interview, whatever. I'm like, okay, great. I was next to Tosh. I'll never forget it, even though it was years ago. But like we were getting off the stage, and I don't know if you remember, Tosh, but I remember after our conversation. But this man walks up to me immediately when I'm getting off the stage. And I'm thinking, I'm going to the back corner, like, no one needs to talk to me. It's all good, whatever. And he was like, Lauren, I am so-and-so from the Orange County Register, and I also write for the Gay Games. And instantly I was like, holy smokes, oh my gosh. He's like, I'd love to interview you if you're comfortable. And in that moment, it was like a gut check moment of like, what are you going to do? What's your choice going to be? And I was like, so scared and really uncomfortable, but I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll chat with you. And so that was the first interview I did about my sexuality, and really just kind of like owning it, even though I was terrified in the moment. And that kind of sparked a lot of things from there. And my whole journey since then, being that I was a young athlete at that point, but I did the interview. We got on the elevator. I'm panicking. I'm like, holy smokes, I got to tell my parents who are in Beijing at the time, like, there's this article that's going to come out and it's going to be in the same newspaper that writes about my dad's football team. Like, what is going on? And panicking. And I'm in the elevator. Tosh was in there, Mendoza, Nuvi, Bustos, Crutchman. There was like 6 or 7 of us in this elevator. And Tasha, I just remember you being like, are you okay? Like, how are you doing? Because she was right next to me and heard the reporter asked me that initial question to interview. And I'm like, I think I'm okay. I don't know. And it's funny because all my straight friends on the elevator were like, it's great. Good job. Go, like, talk about it. Yeah. Like, wave the flag. And I'm like, and then some of my gay teammates were like, oh God, are you like, how are you going to, like, you all right? Like,
now we have to come out too.
Right. Yeah. No, but they could just really relate to like the insecurity in that space and just like not knowing how that was going to affect your journey and your path. And now I'll stop talking soon, let other people talk. But now I'm like so thankful for that moment of like that was somewhat forced on me to talk about it, and that I made the choice to speak about myself, and it's really created the rest of my life.
Love it. I love when you talk about your mom, because if anybody has ever met Lauren Lappin's mother, like, just I can see her driving, just like, oh my gosh, amazing. Okay, is that amazing? No, like super cute. Thanks for sharing. Alicia.
My story, I think me and Lat have completely different spectrums of because for me it was a big deal. My family, we're texters, so like me and my dad will text all the time. We'll call each other, to catch up and stuff, but we're big texters. And so I knew that I was interested in women in high school. Was I out? No. But did my high school teammates know? Yes. Because I was with them every day, and a few of my other teammates were also gay, bisexual. So I would confide in them about who I was, and honestly, I would say, and when I get to college, like, I'm gonna be out. When I get to college, I'm gonna do this. When I get to college, I'm gonna tell everybody. And so that was kind of my story, but I didn't necessarily tell my parents until I was dating somebody and we were getting serious. So I had texted him for context, and I said, "Hey, Dad, I just want to tell you something before everybody else tells you, or you find out from someone else." And I said, "I'm interested in a woman, and we're getting pretty serious, and I just wanted to let you know." And he texted me back and said, "Okay, like, I love you." And so at that moment, I felt relieved because, like you said, there's a lot of trauma surrounding coming out stories, and there's there's spectrums to it. I know not everyone is as accepting as others, and I mean, we'll get into that later because some parents are okay with it, but unless it's their child. So I was kind of nervous to tell my dad, but we come from like a really embracing and open family when it comes to really anything else. Well, I wasn't particularly nervous to a certain extent, but I was a little bit. When I talk about other people in my family, I was more nervous. Not everyone was as accepting as my father was. So that came with a little bit more conversation to just explaining why, because I've had conversations with people like, I just don't understand. Like, can you help me understand? Can you tell me why? But I'm grateful for those conversations because I have people in my corner who may not have understood, but still had the decency and respect to ask me how I felt and why, even though they didn't necessarily understand. And I'm still working through some of that, but the people close to me have been very accepting, and it's been a fairly smooth coming out process, I guess, for lack of better words. So I think on the opposite side of the spectrum, I didn't feel as much pressure coming out to my family, but I think to everybody else in my environment, I felt more pressure because as a softball player in high school, and even in middle school, people would be like, "You're this, you're that, you play softball," you try to put me in a box, and maybe I was in the box, but I didn't want anybody telling me who I was before I even knew who I was. So that.
Love that. Thanks for sharing. Jazz, I'm passing it to you.
Okay. So I never had any interactions with women like that until college. And I met someone and we became serious like in a month because that's what we do. Um, and so we became really serious, like really serious. And this is back in the day when, the phone bill went home to my parents. And so my mom called and she was like, "You're on the phone with this particular number all the time." And I was like, "Oh, that's my best friend." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And so months went on, like 6 or 8 months. We get to softball season, and a parent on my team told my mom in the stand. And so after the game, she kind of pulled me to the side and she was like, "I'm so embarrassed. You didn't tell me. Someone else told me." Like she was really upset. And she kind of disowned me for a few years. And so I was with that person for a long time. My mom eventually passed and I moved home right after college. And I met my current wife like a couple months after being home. And I remember calling my dad and I was like, "Hey, dad, I want to be with this person and I won't tell anyone. No one will know. I'll keep it a secret. Like, you won't have to worry." And he was like, "Ew, who wants to live like that?" He was like, "Why would you want to live in secret?" And I was like, "I don't know, because I thought you kind of have to, you know?" And he was like, "No." He was like, "Live out." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know what that means because I do live in Texas." And so I was like, "No, no, no, that." But with my family, I was out. But I don't think I ever came out to anybody else. I just like started posting on Facebook or Instagram, like we're engaged or we're married. I never like had a moment because I was kind of scarred from my mom, and later realized her hurt wasn't about my life choice. I think it was about lying to her, because we were really close before that. And so I think she was more hurt that I had lied for so long and that someone else told her. So my coming out was kind of easy because, well, it was hard and then it was easy. But yeah, that's kind of my.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I mean, and yeah, both so far, all of you guys, for the most part, your family was accepting. It's just obviously, yes, like they have to sit with it as well, and probably have to process, and maybe takes time, and maybe more so in your case, Jazz, like the fact that you didn't directly tell the truth. So
and I was the only daughter. I have 5 brothers, and I'm the only daughter. So I think she had to sit with the idea that maybe there isn't marriage, maybe there isn't children, maybe there isn't for my only daughter. So I do want to put that out there. I think that was harder for her.
Wiggy-chan. I'm calling you Wiggy-chan. I called you Wiggy-chan on the air yesterday.
Nice. Yeah, I think so. Mine was back in high school. I think I was like explored a friendship that I had with my, best friend in 8th grade. But I think officially it was like in 9th grade. It was somebody that we were talking date, whatever you do in high school in 9th grade. Writing notes back and forth, like doing that whole thing. I had a whole binder of like basically a whole scrapbook of, we're just super in love, like 9th grade, ran track together, played softball. She never played softball before. So anyway, that was that. And then I had kept that binder full of all of our notes, all of our notes, all of our notes, and at my house. And my mom ended up finding it. I kept all our little movie tickets, all our little fun times we did, super organized, but she found it. And so I come home one day, whatever, just coming in the house, and my mom and dad were there. And my mom was like, "We need to talk," or whatever. So it was my mom and my dad, and they sit me down. I remember it like it was yesterday, like in our like dining room in between like our living room. So it was like a big open space. And like I was in a chair and they were in 2 chairs. And my mom she showed me what she had found. And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "What is this?" The whole nine, third degree. And I think she probably asked me like, "Am I gay?" Like just kind of what was going on or whatever. And then I was just like 10 toes deep. I was like, "Yeah, I'm gay." Like super just like, that is what it is. I don't, there's not really any way I could lie, out of this one. But But I think it's a part of like who I was in that moment, just the different the difference in like how my dad raised me and then the influence of my mom, like it just all kind of in that moment, like I was confident in who I was, knowing that this probably wasn't going to go over well, but it was worth it to me in that moment to kind of be who I was, unknowing what's going to happen from here. How is this all going to go? Am I ever going to speak to this girl again? Whatever. But in that moment, my mom, very religious, goes to church. We always went to church growing up. So that's kind of, Christianity, all of that is kind of my foundation as I was growing up. My dad never went to church. And so it was really differing parent styles. And so in that moment, my mom reiterated that I was probably going to go to hell. And then my dad, he always told me he loves me no matter what. And in that moment, he said obviously the same thing. So it was a tough situation in that moment because it was such different reactions from both of my parents. Um, so that was the initial coming out part. And I don't think there was no like official announcement to the world. I think I was just, and I always have been just in my own skin, like just comfortable with who I am. Not perfect by any means, not always super confident in every situation, but at my core and in my heart, like it is who I am. And I've never wavered from that. And, it hasn't been easy to say the least. And as I've gotten older, you rip off the band-aids of some wounds that you might have, kind of pushed down a little bit farther and farther, or I've gotten comfortable being a certain way. And then now having more conversations and kind of engaging in conversations with other people with different experiences. So over the years, I mean, we didn't really talk about it, but there was no backing down. We had the conversation of don't ever speak to her again. And, we did all that. We did that whole dance. But with my dad, he always told me, you don't need a man anyway. I don't even want you to have a man. You don't need a man. Don't bring a man home, that whole thing. So maybe that was a little bit of it, but so yeah, just navigating through. And I think, in high school, playing sports, running track, playing softball, like I had a lot of friends that obviously knew I was gay. They were also gay. Um, Growing up in Georgia back in that day in high school, it wasn't super, super like, I'm not gonna say popular, but there were not a lot of people that were out. So when you had the people that were, it was kind of like you knew everybody in your school that was gay. You did the whole were your rainbows sometimes. We went to Pride in Atlanta. We did all that stuff. And so a lot of those experiences I found comfort in those people. And so that I think helped me grow up a little bit, just dealing with it and navigating it without having my parents, just being super open and okay with it. Cause I knew obviously from my mom's reaction that she didn't agree with it. Um, and so just going through that, I mean, that was kind of my initial coming out. But I think obviously as I've gotten older, I think I've been able to come out more and more just with my comfort level of not being gay because I've been comfortable with that. But I don't announce it to the whole world. But I think in my case, a lot of people just know and they don't feel the need to ask or they assume and don't, so but, always if anybody asks, I tell them and I'm, straight up about any answers and stuff like that. So I feel like I've always been confident in who I am. I think just as I've gotten older, there's just been new situations that you have to deal with in life and, being in different relationships, being open with those relationships in your community and your family. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and definitely Wigs. I'm like, you've always been super confident in who you are. I think anybody who comes across you knows, who you are to your core. You never waver. So I will echo that. But I'm going to throw it back at you. You kind of mentioned like now as you've gone on in your older life, it's not something that you really announce, but do you feel, I can open this up to everybody and just feel free to chime in, but I'll start with you, Wigs. Just any challenges that you felt that you've had to overcome being a gay woman, and is there any discrimination that you felt or any bias that you felt? How have you seen that in your adult life?
Um, my initial answer would be no if we're talking about the sports community. I don't think I have, just individually. I think for me, things I've noticed as I've gotten older in the workforce, I think a lot of times with the opportunities that we get as women, a lot of times those start from a place of, if you are not gay, then people, your bosses and you're given more opportunities, because unfortunately that's how America works a lot of times in the workforce with businesses and jobs and job opportunities. So yeah, it's almost like you're barking up the wrong tree, bud, if that's the kind of situation you want to have in the workforce, which obviously I would not be interested in that. So I think I've seen a little bit of just, I wouldn't say discrimination, but less interest in job opportunities, or if there's, opportunity that maybe I am qualified for, maybe somebody else might get it, or there may be interest somewhere else, because there are ulterior motives from the boss's perspective, or just overall, looks and interest in filling a quota and style, those different things like that. So I wouldn't say it's a lot, but I definitely, as I've gotten older, I've been more aware, because I've been more in the workforce and just the business side of things, that I've noticed certain instances that it's very obvious why I wouldn't be chosen, and then the person that is chosen, they don't embody the same things that I do, or have the same look or different things like that. So,
Anybody else want to share any challenges you felt that you've had to overcome?
Well, I would say,
No.
sorry, go ahead, Jazz.
No, you go, sir. No.
No, I was going to just say, I've been a college coach for a number of years now, and certainly making the leap from lower levels in college to the Division I level, Power 5. I think exactly what Wiggs is saying about hiring processes. A lot of programs are wanting to hire female head coaches now, which is awesome. And sometimes, there are a lot of gay women coaching. So let's be clear on that there are a lot of progressive, welcoming to all departments and programs, universities. But I would say that there are still challenges, that there's still a bias to straight women who are married with children. And so it's tricky, like Wiggs is saying, I put it out there all the time, but I would say monthly, I come across just even a moment, whether it's, someone being purposefully ignorant or not, it's your partner, okay, what does he do? No, I said my partner to give you a cue, dude. No, she, so there are things like that. Someone sees a ring, they immediately think it's a hetero relationship. So there are little things like that I think we have to deal with on a regular basis. But I think that in hiring processes, certainly within our sport, still there is a bias to the norm, and I think that's tricky. It's something that we have to navigate, and it's still there. I think it's getting so much better, but it's still there for sure.
Jazz.
Okay, sorry. I was going to say there's a big difference between pre-2020 and after 2020. So I've seen a lot of changes since 2020 happened, right? So pre-2020, I got a lot of comments, kind of like Lap was talking about, where people would say your husband, and I try to correct them, and then they would get uncomfortable, and then it would make me feel bad. Should I have corrected them, or should I have not let? And then I was like, well, why wouldn't I correct them? Why wouldn't I just be who I am outwardly? In my profession, I'm in softball, but I'm in a different area of softball. I am one of one as a Black woman doing what I'm doing, but I'm also one of one as a gay Black woman doing what I'm doing out. So it's very hard. I'm in a lot of rooms with older men who think it's funny to make comments or say oh, you don't look like a lesbian, or oh, you don't, they think that's super funny. It makes me really uncomfortable, and I think it's really disrespectful. So probably my third or fourth year doing my job, and if you've met me outside of this, I'm pretty truthful and very, very aggressive with my truth, because I've had to do that. I've had to start no, the boundary is going to be here. This is what it is, blah, blah, blah. But it actually makes me really uncomfortable to do that, but I have to, or they try to blur the lines, or they try to say really inappropriate things. Or even since 2020, my org has done a lot of good things. We've gotten a lot of accolades, and I've even had comments well, you know why you got that? Because they need to check boxes, or they need to do that. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So that part's been kind of annoying, but I will say it has been different since 2020, where they maybe tuck their biases in a little bit more than they did before 2020. So that's been
Yeah, the checking the box part is, you want to be the best qualified for whatever it is, right? And I think we're all working towards that in all facets, right? Whether you're a Black woman, whether you're gay, whatever it is, it's you just want to be the best at whatever it is. And that hit me. We don't want to check boxes. So and I'll move on. And Alicia, if you want to add to that too, I want to make sure we all have the opportunity. If there's any challenges that you had, I can move on. But if I would love for you guys to kind of share just your best advice. I would love you to share your best advice to your younger self, and kind of take yourself back to when you were younger and started to realize, okay, yeah, maybe I do like women. This is something that's a thing. Is there anything that you would have done differently in the way that you moved, the way that you communicated? Would there be anything that you would share to your younger self?
I feel like a big thing that I realized post coming out, and just like really embracing who I was, is that my life became more whole. Like I became a better version of myself because I was being my most authentic self. So I became a better family member, a better friend, a better softball player for sure. Like I was all in and everything because I was putting myself out there, and I wasn't hiding anything. I wasn't holding anything back. And so I don't wish my journey is my journey, but had I understood that or had an awareness of that earlier on, I mean, I think it would have been, I just would have gotten more comfortable with myself earlier. When I speak to young athletes about this topic and about my process, like that's my message. And it's not about me being gay. It's about me being me. And so I want young women to know that they are going, like, bring your whole self there and let the world embrace you, because you're never going to experience your best until you're bringing your whole self to something. And so I think that for me was, really just accepting myself and being okay with being gay, and then putting it out there and finding acceptance from others, and coaches who I thought, Coach Kendrea and Coach Rittman, like, gave me big hugs and a kiss on the cheek and said, I love you. And like, those were my guys, they were making the decisions for the rest of my career. So like that was a fear that was in me. And when they embraced me, it was just an unbelievable amount of acceptance to just like go be me and like go be as great as possible. And so I don't even know what your question was, Tosh, but like that's like my best advice, I guess, to anyone. And certainly in this topic, I think it's really tricky, and because everyone comes from a different situation, like Lily mentioned, like we are, like, I feel very lucky. My process was, not super long with my family, but it was a process, but I never had anyone turn their back on me. I've been discriminated against. Had hurtful things said to me, but I've always been embraced. And when I came out, I got messages from people, strangers, who found strength in my story, who had been abandoned by family members, and like, it's like, I can't relate to that, except that like, I've continued to have contact with some of those people to make sure there's someone in their life saying you're great, and you're great because you're you, and you're gay, and like gay is great. You know what I mean? Like, it's all like, I don't know, just, I think that like the end of the day, what you bring to the world is awesome. And so like, just making sure that everyone has an example. Like if you're a young person that's going to listen to this Zoom, like, and you're going through a hard time with being gay or not knowing what you are, and feeling different, that like, find someone to look up to. Like, you get to watch these guys on TV now, and like, let them be your role model, because we didn't really have that back in the day. And how awesome is it that these guys, while they're still competing and playing, are giving young people not only badass softball players to look up to, but humans, and like people that can relate to them. So if things are hard, that you can get through it, even if you feel like you have nobody. Just keep going and keep being you.
And I want to add on that, because I think, I want to put a period on it, because what you said, I 110% agree with. But to add on to that, Your tribe is already out there. So be unapologetically yourself and release everybody else's expectations, release everybody else's assumptions, negative thoughts, whatever it may be, because you can't hold that in your heart. You have to be yourself. You're the person that has to walk around with you every day. You talk to yourself the most. So if I can piggyback on what she said and just completely be yourself unapologetically. I haven't personally lost any friends coming out. All my close friends already kind of knew in different ways, but I have had close friends who have came out and have lost friends because they have grown up in homes where it was like, one, it's taboo, and two, it's like completely like prohibited. And I use that word like with a hammer on it because it's just, it wasn't a thing. And so I've had friends lose many friends, but I've been lucky enough to have all my people stay in my corner. And I say that because like I said, your tribe is already out there and you just have to continue to be yourself, and the right people are going to gravitate towards you. And I know things might be hard, but there's gonna be light on the other side. The grass is gonna be greener when you feel like you can live your life unapologetically.
Period.
Period. Period. Period. Yeah, but
Yeah,
before
I
you
was gonna
go, Wiggs,
add,
I was just gonna
sorry, what?
tell everybody to add questions. Sorry, I was going to open it up before you go. So if anybody who is listening, if you have some questions, we'll start after we get through these next couple questions. We're going to open it up. So go ahead, Wiggins. Sorry.
I think one thing I remember saying this to my mom specifically a long time ago in one of our car ride conversations, random, over the years. It was never in those moments, it was never, I don't expect you to accept who I am because I understand her point of view. I understand that she has her thoughts on religion and, all that. But what I do want is your respect of a human being that I also can choose, and obviously this is probably out after I turned 18 and, just being an actual adult. But like, I want you to respect me as a person and respect me as being able to make my own decisions and be able to live with those decisions. And I think there's a fine line between that. And I find that even myself over the years, but like battling and wanting to convince people of who you are, wanting to convince people of what they should think. But it's a lot easier just piggybacking off of, Lap and Lily. If you can relinquish the expectation that you're going to convince everybody to think exactly the way you think, with all the different types of people in this world, if you can let go of that and truly start to love who you are and be okay with who you are first, then you won't seek validation from those around you. And that's something that I've had to, kind of battle with over the years. And as confident as I am in myself, I'm still aware of how my mom feels. I'm still aware that people won't accept it. And I don't care inside. I care on the outside because I do respect that people feel a certain type of way. And I don't feel the need to be all out in the open. And that's just me, and I think if we can, as individuals that may be struggling with feeling like, you're trying to put on for your parents or your friends, and maybe, you feel like you have to lessen yourself, which I know I've done. And that's the worst thing I feel like you can do in the world, because I feel like one thing that I try to concentrate on is being a good person, doing things the right way, showing up in a certain type of way, treating people with respect, playing softball the way it should be played, like just trying to be a good person at the end of the day. And that's what my mom taught me. That's what my dad taught me. So being able to concentrate on that, it's like, what do I bring to the table? It's not just that I'm gay, but I can accept that people will not accept me for who I am, no matter how hard I yell, no matter how loud I scream, no matter how good of a person I am, they just won't accept it. And I think if you can let that go and really be okay with who you are, because you have, like Lily said, you talk to yourself, you have to wake up and go to sleep every single night on your own. And if you can be happy with who you are and what you bring to the table, then you start to care less and less about trying to convince people to agree with you, or and you find your tribe, you find your people that you can resonate with in life and that you can talk talk to about different things you're going through. But I think the respect part and then the acceptance part are two words that I've always kind of like come back to when I think about, if people don't like who I am, then, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to be a good person. But if you don't accept who I am, then that's, it is what it is. And I can live with that. I can go to sleep very soundly at night knowing that, and I'm okay with it. So if I could give any advice to younger people, is really trying to hone in on like loving who you are, figuring out who you are, making mistakes, like going through the process of figuring that out, but ultimately know that you're not going to please everybody. And being okay with that is going to help you a lot in finding the people that do accept you and finding the people that do love you. So.
Well, I will say the same thing you guys said, being yourself. Um, Also, like, I try really hard, if there's any parents watching, I will say try not to put your fears on your kids, right? So I have two sons, and for the longest time I was like, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen when I take them to school and they see they have two moms and we're in Texas and they have a black mom and a white mom, and oh my God, what's going to happen? But my little boy, I think I told Lap this story. They had dads and donuts the other week, and I was panicked because I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Who's gonna go to dads and donuts? Who's gonna whatever? My son, I walked in to pick him up from daycare, and a little boy asked him, like, hey, is your dad coming to dads and donuts? And he screamed to his loudest voice, I don't have a dad. I have two moms, and my moms will come. And he was so excited to say that, especially, sorry, that's my office phone, but also to tell them that he has a yellow mom and a brown mom. So, like, parents, don't put your fears on your kids, because, like, they don't have those fears, and they're a lot stronger. Like, they don't have those biases growing up. They don't have any of that. Sorry. But I was so panicked, but my kids are not. And so try to just live in where you are. And it taught me a really good lesson.
Love that.
This has nothing to do with that question, Tosh, but I think it's really important. And Jack, like, talking about us imposing, as adults, we impose our biases on the youth. And that's what I feel in reflecting on my journey. It's like, and I've talked to my family about this, and we've talked about it collectively. And like, my brother has 4 kids, and we've talked about the language we use around them, and my little niece, like, let's stop asking little girls if they have a crush on a boy. Like, anyone you have a crush on, or the boys, the same thing. It's like, using with our college student athletes, it's really important for me. And I've talked within our program about this, is, hey, your people are welcome. Your partners are welcome, so that we're not saying your boyfriends constantly, your boyfriends, because then someone then has to say, well, what about my girlfriend? Just make everyone included, But I think the little nuances like that, we are conditioned. Even as a gay woman, I say things sometimes where I'm like, oh, I have to catch myself. And I can relate to have felt like, as a young kid, like, man, like, do I have to like boys? I don't know, and I had crushes on my sister's dance teammates. And I was like, oh gosh, no, I need to have a crush on my brother's baseball teammates, and like, so I think that the little things that we can do as adults and as coaches and as mentors is make sure we really take care of our language and what we're saying, because we are conditioned too, from society and our upbringing, and just to make sure that we're using inclusive language as much as possible.
Yeah, and just along that line, so opening it up. So this kind of question kind of aligns with what you just said, Lap, and this is directed towards you and Jazz. As you guys are coaching the next generation of athletes, do you see them being more comfortable with their sexuality? And if you do see that, do you think that starts in the home of parents being more comfortable with their children being open with who they choose to love?
Great question.
I'll speak for my part. A very good question. My kids are open, way more open than I am at 35. They are 15, and they are themselves openly, honestly. And I think I was talking to a college coach the other day, and I said, I think that's why student athletes are getting better, as they like to say, like, oh man, they're stronger, they're faster, they're this. I just think they're more comfortable. Yeah. And if you are playing if you're comfortable at yourself at 15, what is going to scare you? Like, what pitch is somebody going to throw to scare you? What, like, I have a kid, you will hear her name very soon, because she is hot mess.
She's real good.
She's
Wish
really
she was coming to
good,
Arizona, but
she's really good, but she's really herself. and she's herself unapologetically. And when she was being recruited, coaches said, well, what makes her so good? And I don't want to say, oh, because she's gay, but I just think it's because she's herself. And she's herself, whether if her mom is standing there, whether if the coach is standing, she's just herself. And I think a lot of kids are like that now. I'm finding that they're themselves, good, bad, or indifferent. They tell you way too much. They're super honest, but I think that's helping them play better. And I think it's going to keep going. I think they're going to be, themselves even more in the next few years.
I think also like kids are allies to each other now too. And we see it, like I see it watching Jazz's team. I see it watching like youth teams, but in our program as well. It's like, we have people within our department come in and talk about different things. And like in our team meeting this past fall, one of our straight girls was like, yeah, ally, got you guys. Like, yeah, let's talk about that. I'm an ally, like being loud and proud about just having her people's back. And it's like, so cool. I didn't have that. Like we talked about how we wore ribbons and we had no gay girls on our team, which was false, by the way, but like that, like they are becoming allies for each other. And the young straight kids are celebrating the young gay kids. And like, it's a really cool space. And I think further is that I think kids these days have more access and to people who are gay in all walks of life. And I think people have family members who are out. They have, on TV every day, you can see it on social media. So I think that it's just, more accessible and it's just more normal, and so thank goodness, because it's making kids younger and younger be comfortable, even just knowing what gayness is, you know what I mean? And like, and I think part of that question was families. I think that is a big part of it, is that, people who are Jazz and my age now are having kids, and we grew up in a time that, and Tasha, you're running this thing and we're about the same age. And, so, and you're going to say things around Carter that are probably much different than we heard when we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, And so, that being said, I think that there's still a lot of room to grow in our society, but I think that families, communities, organizations are doing a better job of just celebrating all people and making everyone feel welcome. And so young people are just totally themselves, like Jazz is talking about.
Mm-hmm. And even just the broadcast, I will give you a thing. AU does a really good job of when they talk about people, they speak about their partners. So-and-so is engaged to so-and-so. So-and-so is married to so-and-so. And that's a little small thing, but I do know that my kids talk about it. Like, I do know, like that is a thing when they're watching, like it's not where they used to only talk about if you were married to a man, right? If you weren't, then it was like, okay, you just don't talk about it. They talk about it. So-and-so just got engaged. So-and-so's married. So-and-so is pregnant. Those things are huge because it just normalizes it. And that's what I hope for. It's just more normalcy.
One of the questions was the visibility of queer athletes and athletes unlimited has been very refreshing and powerful. How can we get more colleges, especially top 25 programs, to host Pride games like UCLA to create more visibility and acceptance?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, at a college program. So there you go. Come on, Arizona.
I mean, I think it's putting pressure on people talking about it. You know what I mean? We actually had our first Pride night and I was not proud of it. You know what I mean? It was like, I'm also a big advocate of like, you're going to do something, freaking do it, So, and we will be better next year because it's really important for our entire staff, not just the gay people on staff, but our entire staff to make sure that our program is welcoming and accepting and celebratory of the community. And it's tricky in certain places. And I think that that's where it needs to be done the most. But those are the hardest locations to get a good Pride game done. And so I think it's continuing to talk to your programs. I think it's having alum demand it. So I know like for us, it would be really important if alumni reached out and said, we want to do this. Why don't you guys do a Pride game? Or why didn't I see it? Why didn't we post about it and things like that? So I think it's very, very important. I think a lot of straight people underestimate the power of Pride. And we joke, oh, it's our month. Like a couple of my friends and I, like, great, yeah, this 1 month. No, we're gay the whole year, and like we should be celebrating the whole year. But guess what? This is one space where we can just like talk about the history of the LGBTQ plus community, and we can put things out there, and just like it highlights. And it's why we have celebrations of all things, you know, or all marginalized communities, really. And it's like this is our time to really emphasize our community and celebrate it. And so I don't know, I'm rambling now, but I think it's like one of the most important things. I love Wigs that you went to Pride when you were in high school. Like, how cool is that? Like, I've been to a number of Prides, and when I see like straight families carrying around children on their shoulders, and like that's the coolest thing to me. My sister and brother-in-law, they go to a Pride every year. They try, like when it's June and they're traveling, they're like, oh, what's the Pride event in this community? And like they are allies and they celebrate it. And they, as straight people go, it's not a gay event, it's a human event. And so I don't know, I think that just any way that we can highlight the community and celebrate and make people feel welcome and also tell a story is really, really important.
Mm-hmm. One question that I would like to direct towards Megan and Alicia is just both you guys, just you have an incredible platform playing on Athletes Unlimited, and the question that was asked, I actually agree. They do a wonderful job, and even being on my side, being a color analyst, like that information is fed to us, and I love it, like that we have the opportunity to actually talk about it. But with you guys having this platform, how do you balance the pressures of being an athlete and just the need to advocate for the LGBTQ community rights and visibility? How are you guys using this platform?
I think every day, like I'm a walking advocate by being myself. And I mean, there's layers to it too. I mean, we've talked about, well, mostly Wiggins when she talked about kind of discrimination. If you look at someone like myself, someone like Lap, and someone like Jazz, we are straight passing. So you can look at us and just automatically think that we are straight. And you could say the same about Wiggs, but I mean, the proof is in the pudding. She's a little bit more tomboy than the rest of us. But I think every single day, just by living in my truth, I'm an advocate for those who might not feel like they can be themselves. And my goal is to foster an environment around me within my people, and in different ways that I can, whether it be social media or whether it be those Friday Night Light talks that we have in championship season, to ensure that people around me feel comfortable being themselves, and it's okay to be who you are, regardless of who you love. And I think that is a message that AU has done a good job at sending out. And like Lat said, I feel like on one hand, I'm like, we shouldn't celebrate it because it's a celebration every day. But on the other hand, like you talk about Stonewall, you talk about all the riots, all the, everything else included, and just like all marginalized communities. I love the celebration, but I think every single day is like, for me, I want you to be yourself. You're accepted, you're loved. And I do that just by being myself. If anybody's around me, I'm just myself. And all that I can do is hope that everyone feels comfortable enough to do so and feel inspired by how I live my life, open and free. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without the experiences that I've had in the past. So if I go back to your question, Tosh, I wouldn't change a thing about my experience because it's made me who I am. And every experience that I've had up to this point has led me to be unapologetically myself. So that's how I walk in my authentic self every day, is just being myself, and then fostering an environment where other people feel like they can as well.
Megan?
Yeah, again, I think AU almost feels like another coming out for me, just because like it was like in college, we didn't talk about it. We were it, but we didn't talk about it. Not in a let's not talk about it. It just wasn't as out in the world normalized as it is now. Again, I would sit and talk about it for hours. I don't care, but it just wasn't like a passing conversation, a normal conversation, and most certainly not, in any type of sport that we were doing early on in my professional career with NPF. Like we did Pride games think like a couple times later. So yeah, it's not something that I've always just like, I'm not running around with rainbows everywhere. I'm not, it's just not who I am, but I'm very comfortable in talking about who I am, being who I am. But I think like Lily was saying, like, I think the easiest thing for us with AU specifically is I know that they do things that make everybody feel included. Their wording, like Lap was saying, the words that they use are very not strategic, but very intentional, because they're being inclusive. And I think that's one thing that I've learned to appreciate is you can bring your partners, you can bring your significant others, you can bring, there's not very direct language where you would feel like you have to ask, oh, well, can my girlfriend come? Because you said, boyfriends, whoever can come. So I think they do a really good job of the language that they provide, even internally to the players on all of our, admin stuff that we get here and there. So they're very inclusive when it comes to that and just the different celebrations that we do since 2020. Just the small things. And I think that early on, I really resonated and appreciated because not that we didn't do that before, but now it almost means more because I know it's very intentional and it's on purpose because they know the people that they have in the league. They know that there's a lot of different types of people, different backgrounds, so many different people that make up AU, athletes and staff. And so that's something that I think that one, they continue to push the standard, everything AU does, I feel like is very intentional. So it's easy to be myself at AU. It's easy to walk around confident. And being able to know that I don't have to do anything different to show that I'm gay. And not people know, I don't want people to assume, but it is what it is. But yeah, and there are other people like me, and I remember playing with my teammates, Kelly Crutchman, obviously, and we both were like very masculine compared to a lot of other people that played in the league. And so it was comforting to be able to play with her and alongside her a lot. And then now just being able to be myself and know that there are other athletes out there that will be also more masculine than their other friends or different things like that. And I hope that I can be some sort of role model for them that they can look up to and feel like they can be comfortable in their own skin, be a tomboy, be athletic, be, all those things and be able to show up themselves day in and day out, and still feel included by those around them. So.
Love that. I've just been very impressed with Athletes Unlimited, just my interaction now. I'm, calling your guys' games, but could you imagine like 10, 15 years ago, like that information wouldn't be fed to a color analyst. It's just like, don't talk about it. Don't even like go there. And so I love that you guys are playing in this platform. Like you said, it's like another coming out, but and I think just how powerful it is for a young athlete who may be gay, who can look at you guys and actually see you guys moving comfortably in your skin and super powerful and doing all the things that you guys are doing on the field. So I love that. The last question, and I want you guys to make it real quick because I want to make sure that we answer the questions that came in. Just real quick, the best advice for a parent of a young gay athlete, do we scream it from the rooftops like I want to do, or let my daughter lead the way? And then it said, FYI, I love you, Lap. Or Lauren, the person left that comment. But
was
real
that
quick,
a family member of mine who was their last name? I'm just kidding.
I'll go. I think obviously it's the kid's journey, it's the kid's story or young adult, whatever. So I think obviously I would let the kid lead the situation. Obviously, as a parent, you're going to want to protect them in a lot of different ways and help them navigate. And I also think that's very beneficial. But again, language and wording, I think when you are interacting with your child too and in society, I think is really important, because words can mean a lot of different things coming from different mouths. But I definitely would just allow your kid to express themselves, figure out who they are, and that might change every week, especially at a young age. And they think that they're this one week and they want to wear, boys' clothes the next week and they want to wear girls' clothes the next week, and I think it's just a revolving door when it comes to that at a younger age. But yeah, I think having an ally in your parent is something special. So
I think the power of saying I love you is like, it's so huge. I mean, I think even if you're a parent who doesn't necessarily understand where your kid's at or what it's gonna, how them being gay might impact your life when they do come out to you or let you in a little bit to their, you know, life and their process, then I think just saying that I love you and continuing to show up for them is hugely important. I think it's the most important thing that you can do. And I think a close second is what Wig said, is the language that you use around your kids. But I love you is so powerful. And my dad said to me, I don't understand it yet, but I love you and I will, because I love you. I will understand it. And he now is like the best and loves me and my partner. So
I think those are great answers.
Yeah.
Exactly
It
what I
all
was
good.
gonna say, so that's why I was kind of silent. Like you guys, I think had really great answers. I feel I feel supported by my parents, my dad and my stepmom, because they repost, they stay in contact with, you know, my person. My person does the same. It feels very comfortable when I'm not in town, takes my grandma out to lunch. And so it's just, it's been a really a really cool process to see my parents just like embrace my people. And I love to see it too, because we talked about the trauma like surrounding the coming out process, which I feel like there shouldn't be any. You should just be who yourself off rip out the gate. But I think allowing them to lead and just like being a close second. I love the repost. It warms my heart when I'm like, okay, like you're endorsing this, you love this, you're showing everybody that you have no shame in who your daughter is and how she comes across in the world. So that warms my heart to see that, and just to see them keep in contact with, I mean, I'm 27, so like I'm an adult and I'm a young athlete. But for me, as somebody who's older, like I love to see relationships form, and just the effort in asking questions, even if you don't understand, to ask questions and to try to. And even if you don't love it, just, you know, continue to ask questions without judgment, and keep your heart open.
The only thing I will say different, or not different, but to add to it, um, one of my kids that's pretty out, I asked her mom what she did to give her kid a little bit more comfortability, and she said she provided protection for the outer family. So not the nucleus, but the extended family. She said that she provided the protection, that they knew it was not okay to impose their opinions on her. And so I think that was huge, because while your immediate family, and maybe this goes away as we keep going, but while your immediate family was okay with it, a lot of time your extended family, especially older people in your extended family, would give their opinions. And as a parent, she just shut it off. She, you know, did the work in front of, like, hey, she's bringing so and so. It's not to be discussed. It's not to be criticized. This is what we're doing. This is normal in our household. And it just provided space for this player to be themselves without that, you know, added pressure from the extended family. So I think if you could do that, that probably would be really helpful.
That was great.
That was great. Period on that. And we will end it there. No, that is amazing. Honestly, thank you guys all for sharing your stories. What's that?
Naughty.
I love it.
Partner are going out right now.
No, I appreciate you guys just having the courage, sharing your experience. I just think it's so powerful. I'm echoing what I said earlier, and I know that a young girl is listening to this and is like, okay, this is super helpful. And so, if there was a way to reach you guys, I'm sure social media, if there's a young lady that ever wanted to DM you, they could hopefully reach out to you. Yes. So I would encourage for them to reach out to you. And wherever we post this, I'll share your guys' information and your handles on this. But thank you all for your time, and thank you for contributing to this conversation. So very necessary, and I admire and appreciate all of you. So thank you for your time for doing this.
Thanks, Tosh.
Thank you, Tosh.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thanks everyone for
appreciate it.
joining.
Okay.
Good to see
sorry.
you.